Are we ready to do some more murder? Let's do some more murder. Okay. So, let me preempt this video starting off, since the YouTube moderators are crazy, that interrogation videos are public domain, because these are a matter of public record. And just because I'm covering something that's already up on your channel does not mean it should be censored. Hassan Piker pointed that out on one of his videos. I don't know why y'all attack me for this sort of stuff, but hopefully we can cover this one. All right.
Does he point at you? Tell me that you gotta show. I need you to show me exactly what he did. This is very important. No, you need to get up. Can you get up, please? It's very important.
This is Cheyenne Jessie showing detectives exactly how she killed her father. At this point, she is under the false assumption she will walk free from this room. Mere hours ago, Cheyenne and her partner Matthew Cody Munro...
3 hour oh my god, a 3 hour interrogation. Wow. Okay. That's obviously he obviously is able to tear her down, you know. Okay. This is gonna be long. Because it's an hour and 19-minute video. What they give you a teaser about the father getting killed, her basically admitting to doing that, but there's also a 6-year-old baby involved in this that is her daughter.
Voluntarily walked into the Polk County Sheriff's Office to discuss the disappearance of her father and 6-year-old daughter.
Did you come here under arrest or anything like that? Mm-hmm. Did you come here because you wanted help or anything?
I wanted help finding my daughter.
Okay.
And my dad. Like, he texted us on my fiance's phone. My phone was kind of jacked up that week.
Okay.
It was time for me to get minutes on my phone, and my data was slow. So. Okay.
But so you wanted to come, you came here freely. You wanted to help. You wanted to come here.
It gets a little confusing at one point because there's apparently 2 men that are involved in her life. One of them is the guy sitting in the room, I think, is named Cody. But the fiance, who I think that's who she's referring to, or maybe he's the father. I haven't really figured out the relationships of who she's involved in with this in this story. But she keeps referring to a Matthew, okay?
I wanted to help my dad.
On July 18th, 2015, almost 3 weeks prior to this footage, Cheyenne visited her father Mark, leaving her daughter Meredith to stay with him for the summer. The pair hadn't been sighted since, and Cheyenne finally reported them missing on August 1st. As far as she's concerned, the authorities harbor no suspicion against her, and Cheyenne is eager to play the part of despondent mother and daughter. But with weeks slipping by before she sought help from the police, she's instantly under scrutiny. Cheyenne is here of her own volition, and she sits with detectives undetained, having not yet received a Miranda warning. But detectives Matthew Newbold and Jeffrey Clark are already laying the foundations for the controversial and legally risky 2-step interrogation method, which aims to impugn the suspect's lies before an arrest even takes place. The traps they set whilst Cheyenne remains a free woman will rupture her veneer and reveal the makings of Meredith and Mark's harrowing fates.
Where's your daughter's name?
Meredith, Leanne, Jessie, Leeann, one word.
And she's 6?
Yes, sir.
And who does she live with full time?
Me, but my dad was talking about maybe taking her just till school starts. So
this last time you dropped her off, y'all were talking about him taking her till school starts?
Yeah, until she gets straight, because she behaves better for him.
Well, that's not totally unusual that if you have a child who's has some behavioral issues and they respond better to a parent that you might want to let them spend some time with a different relative who might have a better relationship, have a better rapport. That's not totally unusual, but it does start getting weird when they start talking about the mental illness history going on in her family.
She has oppositional defiancy.
Okay.
Here we have our first glimpse into the life and personality of 6-year-old Meredith Jessie, Cheyenne's only child. Meredith was diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder at a very young age, a condition characterized by consistent, uncooperative, and often hostile behavior towards authority figures. It seems that Meredith viewed her grandfather, Mark, as less of a looming authority figure than her mother, Cheyenne. Of course, Meredith and Mark aren't present to ratify such a claim, and the way Cheyenne presents her family will reveal far more about her own character than theirs.
Basically, where she has the word problem.
Okay.
She's actually said that the police can't touch her. And I said, yeah, they can. They're pretty powerful people.
Have you called the police on her before?
No, I haven't called the police on her before, but I've had her big ratted.
I'm sorry?
Big ratted.
Okay, big ragged?
Yeah.
What Cheyenne is referring to here is Florida's Mental Health Act of 1971, a law more commonly known as the Baker Act. This allows for involuntary admission into psychiatric care if certain violent or suicidal signs of mental illness are displayed. As Meredith's legal guardian, Cheyenne's consent is all that's needed to have her daughter committed.
What do you want?
Wait, let's talk about that for a second, because how many 6-year-olds do you know? How many 6-year-olds do you know that think about the police, that think about the police, they can't touch me? That's already really fucking strange, right? Like, you've got a 6-year-old saying the police can't touch me, if this is true, because we don't even know if what the woman is saying is true. But that's a really bizarre thing for a 6-year-old to be thinking about, you know? Let's get through the ad.
What a job that I don't hate. Will I do something?
So she got big ragged when she went to the doctor and they determined that, or...
Yeah, she said that I've seen this before and we're going to get a handle on it now, that it can, she's seen some pretty worse scenarios.
Okay.
And that she goes, it's a chemical imbalance also in the brain.
Is it, did they say that's hereditary or anything like that? Or? Okay.
Yeah, with her dad having it and my mom having it.
It's hereditary. I know where he's going with this. He wants to know her mental history. He's trying to get there, and she's gonna dance around the subject.
That, you know, and then my grandma has it, and some of my siblings have it.
It's interesting to note that while listing such an extensive family history of mental illness, Cheyenne doesn't mention her own. At 8 years old, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a remarkably young age for such a diagnosis, and family members recall violent outbursts such as her strangling another child during an argument. This isn't to say that those with mental health conditions are compelled to commit violent crimes. On the contrary, people with mental illness are far more likely to be a victim than the perpetrator. What Cheyenne's omission reveals is her tendency to offload blame, demonizing others before she'll even consider her own culpability.
Well, and on top of it, she's about to get into some allegations of her 6-year-old attacking her and causing her to have a miscarriage. And I don't know about you, but like, I've raised a child. I've raised a little boy who is now a grown man. And at 6, there's no way he could have like done any damage to me. I find it highly unlikely that a 6-year-old girl could have done any damage to me. Let's go.
Keeping this in mind, she will shed a troubling light on her statements moving forward as she describes the day her daughter went missing.
But it's, in these missing person cases, the reason why, if you're wondering, the reason why I ask all these questions, because believe it or not, I've done this job a long time, believe it or not, I need to almost like know her whole life and what she does and all that kind of stuff, okay? So that's why we ask all these questions. So if she was supposed to go to the doctor on the 20th.
Yeah.
Do you know if she went?
I don't. They called me and I let them know that my dad was supposed to take her and everything.
When did they call you?
That day that she wasn't there.
Okay, so they called after they apparently didn't show up?
Yeah, and I tried calling my dad and it's like, when I call him, his phone's turned off.
Okay.
So, and I know whenever he gets mad at me, he turns the phone off.
That day specifically, do you remember they left your message? Do you remember about how long it was until you called your dad?
No, sir, I don't remember.
Okay. And did you leave a voicemail for him?
No, I don't like leaving voicemails.
Okay.
I don't like his voicemail. It says, leave me a number. Okay, you ring my phone, ring my number, got my phone, leave me a message or leave me alone.
That's what your dad's voicemail says?
Yeah.
How many times did you try calling him?
They called him once and then I don't remember exactly how many times I tried calling him over the past couple of days.
I mean, that day, because he was supposed to take your daughter to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And they're calling saying, hey, basically, they haven't shown up, is someone bringing her to the doctor? So did you try calling your dad just once?
Yeah.
Just one time? And it went to voicemail? Straight voicemail?
Yes.
Cheyenne's attempts to follow up on her daughter's absence are unenthusiastic at best. She wasn't concerned enough to notice when the doctor's office called her to even estimate how long before she could call back, and she gave up on reaching her father after calling just once. She said,
well, and also, okay, so I don't know what year this happened, right? This video is about 2 months old at this point, but I don't know when the actual case happened. But if she's saying he had his phone turned off, it means that it was at least during the cell phone age, right? It was at least during the cell phone age. So why didn't you follow up with a text? My mom doesn't pick up the phone either, right? And we follow up, my brother and I have to follow up with texts because she's more responsive to texts than she is to phone calls. But I mean, early in the pandemic, there were 2 times that we had to do welfare checks on her because she wasn't responsive for like 3 days in a row when we were trying to get a hold of her. So we would have to drive over to her house and figure out, is she still alive? Because this was early in the pandemic and PPE was still not really widely available. Cleaning supplies were still not really widely available. And we needed to make sure that she wasn't dead in her condo, you know? So the lackadaisical approach here of, he just didn't show up to the doctor's appointment with my daughter, who has mental health problems, who has been violent towards me. This is her story. This is the story that we're going to find out. Whatever. I just, I placed one phone call.
Seems more preoccupied with complaining about Mark and how he ignores her calls when they argue about how to care for Meredith. For Cheyenne, this is an opportunity to vent her frustration, to let others in on the tension within her family. But for the detectives, these are seeds that could have sprouted motive. She throws Mark under the bus for his disapproval of Meredith's medications, and she does so with little prompting, revealing how this resentment dominates her mind. She repeats the idea that Meredith is less antagonistic with Mark, revealing that Cheyenne believes the 6-year-old's hostility is reserved entirely for herself. It's easy to miss, but at first mention of a dispute between father and daughter, Detective Newbold writes notes for the first time since taking down basic housekeeping. This is the first step in building a timeline of events, any inconsistencies in which will be used to confront Cheyenne later in the interview. For now, the goal is simply to keep her talking.
I told him about how I was afraid of her staying at the house because she comes to the door. I actually had to lock my bedroom door because she whispers through the door, "Better be glad this door's locked." And she's threatened me so many times, and I just don't feel safe with her. When I'm with her alone, I have the door shut and I can see through the crack where she sleeps.
Okay.
And I normally wait until she's asleep before I go upstairs.
There are situations where kids have behavioral problems and mental problems. But that can obviously be exacerbated if they're not being cared for properly. there can be like some resentment in not being cared for properly. Um,
And I removed all the knives and everything from downstairs. But since she's not been home for a week, I've kind of been able to bring my knives back out so I can cook and everything.
Okay. So she's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I don't understand how to deal with the bipolar or child with disability, so I just tell my dad, well, maybe if I sign my rights away to somebody who would...
that was a Freudian slip, because she said that she was diagnosed with something else. She initially said she was diagnosed with something I've never heard of before, that was like some sort of like chronic oppositional, it was like basically just like fighting all the time. And now she's claiming she's bipolar, but she didn't say that she was diagnosed as bipolar. Yet the JCS dude just told us that she has been diagnosed as bipolar.
Be able to handle her and be able to like see if...
Especially the dad saying that she's fine around him, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, this time when she went to Orlando, where was she, who Baker acted her?
Well, she scratched her face up, and so I was like, when I went upstairs and told her, I said, give me a second, I'll turn TV on, let me go change into my comfortable clothes out of my jeans. We just got done seeing my cousins. They came in town.
Really? You couldn't just flip the TV on? You're like, no, I'm not going to flip the TV on for you right now. I'm going to go change, do my own stuff first. It sounds to me like she was purposely trying to assert her will in inappropriate ways with a 6-year-old. I mean, the 6-year-old just wants to watch TV. You can't flip on the fucking channel for her. Oh my God, even.
Went upstairs, I came downstairs, and I go, baby, come here. And he goes, what? I said, just come here and look what she did.
You said, baby, you talking about Matthew?
Yeah, my fiance. And he comes down and goes, what did she do? I said, I don't know what she did. And then she went all kind of just, like, everything doesn't revolve around me. I'm like, nothing revolves around anybody.
Oh, like she wanted attention?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like, I just said, I don't know.
Really? A 6-year-old is going to use language like that? A 6-year-old even knows the word revolve? Like, everything doesn't revolve around me. Maybe she's paraphrasing.
What to do with this? I don't know what to do.
Cheyenne freely admits she doesn't know how to handle Meredith's attention-seeking and her desire to surrender her daughter to those better equipped to care for her. But even if these stories are true, and this desperation contextualizes any harm done to the 6-year-old, it cannot absolve one of guilt.
And they've done EEG with her brain. They've sent her to a cardiologist. I found out she has had bicuspid aortic valve, I think is what it's called. So we got like 2,000 in your heart instead of 3. It said it's nothing to be concerned with, just watch her and everything. So I kind of became like, I'm overprotective. I don't really let her go outside very much unless I'm out there.
Cheyenne has plenty to say about how caring and invested she is as a mother. Yet, when Newbold asks for specifics about the quality of their relationship and what they do together, the examples she offers are darkly at odds with how Cheyenne characterizes herself.
Tell me about...
Well, and also it's pretty weird that she was like so obsessively watching her child like that, micromanaging her child like that. I mean, I had to watch my son pretty closely because we didn't live in a very safe neighborhood. So I was outside when he was outside just for that purpose, because I knew that there was dangerous people in our neighborhood. And so I wanted to make sure he was safe. But it wasn't like I was like staying on top of him the whole time. I just had him like within eyesight so that I could make sure that like he didn't get abducted or something. Because he's a little blonde kid, you know, and we lived in a darker sort of neighborhood. And we had gone to the police station because I was very involved in his Cub Scout pack, we had gone to the police station and looked up like the sexual offenders in our neighborhood. We looked it up from there's two different ways to look it up. You can look it up by name, which I think that one's on the website, but it doesn't give you the addresses. And then the one that's at like the sheriff's station is the addresses without names. And so you can get like a visual perspective of where sexual offenders are in your community. So I was well aware that we had a situation going on because I was living in a poor neighborhood at the time that he was 6. So I did go outside with him, but it's not like I was preventing him from going outside. If he wanted to go to the park, if he wanted to go play outside, I'm like, okay, let's go. It wasn't like I kept him inside all day, you know? It's weird for her to say that, well, I kept her inside all the time and I only let her out when I was going to be there with her. Well, does that mean that you didn't do it very often? Because you were too lazy to fucking take care of your child?
You and your daughter's relationship, what do y'all normally do together? And, I know she has issues.
Well, every time I go to try to tickle her, like, you know, mamas do, and try to love on her and stuff, she turns violent towards me. She's knocked my glasses off or they're broken up here. Several times she's choked me.
It would make more sense for her to bring up brighter memories, but Cheyenne's inability to handle Meredith's behavior preoccupies her mind enough to overwhelm this logic. As she lists how the...
Well, yeah, she's demonizing her victim. She's demonizing her victim. She's trying to explain why Meredith was such a bad child, right? Look, I used to tickle my son too, and ultimately he told me he didn't like it anymore, and so I stopped doing it. You know, if a kid is like, you know what, I don't really like this, then you stop doing it, you know? Sometimes they get to an age where they're like, stop, you know? I didn't do wet willies or noogies or anything like that, but, you know, if I was to talk about, like, what happened when he was 6, like, what we were doing together when he was 6, I was reading Harry Potter to him every night. I was taking him to Disneyland. We had Disneyland passes, annual passes. We would go to Disneyland all the time. We would sometimes go up to the John Wayne Airport and watch the flights come in and fly off and have, like, McDonald's, you know? Those are the, like, we'd go to the park. I was getting him involved in Cub Scouts. These are the types of things that I would have been talking about at age 6 for my son. I would be talking about, like, planning his birthday party that was like an alien theme that we had in the park, and how I, you know, put together a bunch of different party bags, like, you know, for all of his friends that were invited, and how I hired a magician to perform for them. Like, those were my memories of my son being 6. This is shocking that she is entirely focusing on behavioral issues of her child rather than talking about these happy moments. And I'm not saying my son was perfect. He had some behavioral issues, but these were the things that I focused on doing with him to try and get around the fact that he was a little bit challenging to because he had ADD, you know. But these are things that you deal with, you know. Like, I can absolutely give you a ton of examples of struggles that I had in being a young mother and trying to figure out how to deal with ADD. But what I focused on was trying to create fun memories like that.
Child has broken her glasses, choked her, and punched her in the stomach. Cheyenne spares little thought for how her daughter feels, of her interests, desires, and goals. Her only concern is what Meredith does to her, how the 6-year-old has wronged her.
She actually punched me in the stomach, and I actually started spotting, and I went to the doctor back in April.
I find this impossible. I find this story fucking impossible that a 6-year-old girl could hit you hard enough in the stomach to give you a miscarriage. I find this fucking impossible.
This was before she got big project. And
this before what now?
She got big project.
Oh, okay.
Ever got big project. And they said I was pregnant, but I was spotting and they didn't see the baby, but the tests were positive. So I went down to a clinic and I had to have an abortion because my body was trying to have a miscarriage, but...
Who was the father of that child, Matthew?
Whilst the pregnancy was unplanned, and of course Meredith didn't intentionally cause this harm, this loss doesn't bode well for Cheyenne's sentiment toward her daughter. In contrast with her abasement of Meredith to a violent menace, Cheyenne is eager to explain how supportive Cody is, and all the kind...
Yeah, but did it actually happen? Did it actually happen? Because it seems impossible to me that a 6-year-old could do that kind of damage. And I think it more likely that she wanted to have an abortion and she wanted an excuse. And so she wanted to blame her daughter for it.
Things he does for her.
We kind of we just held each other's close and said, we'll work through this. He said, I'm here for you for everything.
Her portrayal of each reveals a clearer picture of how she perceives those around her. For the detectives, it imparts potential motive.
A lot of her behavioral problems started out when she was in DBK, when she was at A+ Learning Center.
Okay.
And I've always wondered, did something happen there or anything? Then now maybe she blames me because, Mom was supposed to protect me. Mom wasn't there.
How old was she when she was there?
She started going there when she was about a year old. Recently I started getting cash assistance and I was on food stamps. I'm still on food stamps, but...
Is Matthew on food stamps as well?
No.
Okay.
I just haven't updated my food stamps yet.
How would you classify on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how was you and Matthew's relationship?
I'd say it's about a 10.
Really? So y'all plan on getting married and all that? That's
Yeah,
good.
we just want to just get my daughter help first and, put some years in between knowing each other's instead of, rushing into marriage like everybody else does in our age. We're comfortable with each other. I feel safe. I feel safer when I'm with him than I do when my daughter's there with me.
Okay, well, who's this other guy in the room, this Cody dude?
And I try to make sure that I'm not alone with her because of her mentality.
Okay.
Cheyenne's depiction of Cody is, again, poles apart from her attitude towards Meredith. Newbold seeks to put this gap in more quantifiable terms. She's committed to marrying him eventually, but on his condition that Meredith's behavioral problems must first be tamed. Considering how thoroughly...
But she just said she's marrying Matthew. Is this a mistake by JCS? Because she just said that her fiance's name is Matthew and that they have a 10 relationship.
defeated Cheyenne feels when it comes to her daughter, one must wonder how she hoped to overcome this hurdle to live happily ever after.
So on a scale, I know that your daughter has issues, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you classify you and your daughter's relationship, 10 being the best?
I was trying to make it at least an 8, but she...
But realistically,
about
speaking,
5.
5? Okay.
Because every time I go to hug her, she turns violent towards me, and I'm like, okay. But when I come home from work and I'm tired, and I say, give me just a little bit, let me calm down from work, and then we can play. I used to take her out to do stuff when I had the money.
It sounds like she was incredibly neglectful. It sounds like her daughter was trying to get her attention because she was incredibly neglectful. Because she couldn't greet her daughter when she came in the room. She couldn't even flip on the TV for her and then go change. You know, it sounds like she was incredibly neglectful.
We used to go see movies sometimes or go to a park, but then she started becoming a little weird when it comes to strangers. Like, she went up to a stranger and shaking him and told her whole, whatever she knew. If she knew her address, she probably would have told him that. And
how would you classify Matthew's relationship with your daughter on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best?
He was trying to make it like a 10, but...
Of course, he wanted everything to be a 10.
Yeah, but he goes, I don't know how to deal with her. I've never really had a kid.
Right.
And he goes...
So that makes it better.
Yeah, dudes, if you're going to date a single mom, you need to be ready to accept the child. But, I mean, this person seems horrible. I don't know what her partner looks like. But seriously, if you're gonna date a single mom, you can't be like, I don't know how to deal with children. You have to be like, okay, you're a package deal. That's how it goes.
Basically, he's never alone with her. He goes, I don't want to be alone with her. Because, matter of fact, she's a little girl. There's people will accuse me of all different things. I'd rather just be safe, and he takes her with his family. And as long as she's buying him things, she's happy and she loves him. But when he says, well, I can't buy it, we have to pay bills, then she hates him. And then she tells.
Well, and by the way, this also goes for women. Women, if you're marrying a dad who already has a child, you need to accept the child. Especially if you ultimately want to marry this man, you are going to be the stepmother, and you better be a good fucking stepmother. Because I've met too many fucked up stepmothers in my life. 2 of the men that I dated had the most fucked up stepmothers I've ever met. That just completely reduced them as though they weren't even part of the family. Most recently, I found out that one of them passed away in 2018, and her family did not even include him in the notice that she had passed. They said who she was survived by and did not include his name, despite the fact that she raised him as a teenager. She was horrible to him. She was horrible to me as well. She tried to actually assault me at their house when she had OD'd her husband, and I was trying to call 911, and she tried to assault me.
Him that only thing he's good for is money, and I said, no, he's trying to be a dad to you, because your dad is with his other family right now. That's what I tell her, so that's why she doesn't feel like, well, my dad abandoned me.
You go by lots of titles. Veteran, dad, hairstylist. So adding a student
When Cheyenne belabors her own efforts and imagines Meredith as motivated by reasons like greed, she presents their dynamic as adult and reciprocal in nature. Cheyenne is a martyr who has been wronged, and assuming malice behind her daughter's behavior allows her to feel comfortable with any enmity she herself feels. It's much easier to hate a spiteful materialistic figure than to confront the uncomfortable reality that behavioral disorders are complex, often leading to irrational behavior that can't easily be categorized as good or bad.
For mine and her relationship, we seem to be like almost out of 9. When me and my daughter.
Okay.
When she's with my dad.
Okay.
Because like my dad Grandpa came into some money, and then he has some money stashed up, so he can buy her what she wants when she wants, and she listens to his theory. She thinks all adults are stupid, but Grandpa.
Okay. Does she tell you that?
Yeah. She's actually told me I'm.
So do you think that, having said that, do you think it's better for you and your relationship with Matthew if she's with your dad full time?
We've actually been able to focus on our relationship instead of constantly looking over our shoulder. What's she going to do next? What's she going to destroy?
Right. So it does make y'all's relationship better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheyenne revisits the idea that Meredith behaves for those spending money on her, this time referring to her father Mark. Though Cheyenne will often comment her daughter is more amicable around Mark, she again reduces the reasons for this to Meredith's greed and entitlement. Regardless of this rationalization, she's confident that her relationship with Cody is stronger when her daughter is in Mark's care.
Why does she keeps saying Matthew and he keeps saying Cody? I'm very confused about this situation. But also, I mean, I've raised a child, and I bought him things. Sure, I got him toys and stuff. I didn't have a ton of money. We lived in a poor neighborhood. But I did focus on. I focused a lot of attention into, teaching him how to play, teaching him how to read. I spent time with my child because it mattered to me. And it seems like she really just didn't want to be around her child at all, and that's going to, if she's got some mental issues, that's going to make it much worse. That's going to really mess the situation up. But I don't recall my son being greedy. Like, I find that to be a strange thing to attribute to a 6-year-old, because 6-year-olds don't really have like a barometer for what they should or shouldn't get. And so it's not like, I mean, sure, they whine and complain if they don't get something that they want, but it's unusual for them to be so greedy that they need people to spend money on them at all times, because usually they just want to fucking play in the dirt and make mud pies. They usually just want to like run around, ride their bikes. That's unusual to say that was like a constant focus for her.
Eliminating Cheyenne's motivation to be free of the child, Newbold continues asking basic logistical questions, such as where she and Cody work, camouflaging amongst them the more conspicuous attempts to steer their conversation, all while building a detailed timeline.
I get punched a lot.
Okay.
It's basically, I try to wake her up and I get hurt.
Every time you wake up, she starts punching you?
Yeah, kicking or anything and saying, I don't want to get up, and I'm not going to because you're not the boss.
Okay. How does that make you feel?
Scared.
Okay. Does it make you angry? Sad?
No.
This attempt to quite literally put the word angry in his suspect's mouth doesn't pay off. But given how comfortable and talkative Cheyenne feels at present, this doesn't detract from the interview's momentum.
What time was Matt's shift? Does he go by Matt or Matthew?
He goes by Cody at the house.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Matthew is what he uses for, like, paperwork
Okay,
and
so Cody,
doctors and stuff.
you take Cody to work at what time?
Okay. I get it. All right, so he goes by Cody, but his legal name is Matthew. I get it now.
Like for my dad's, and that's when, because she's already going to go with him that weekend.
Okay.
But I talked to him about, well, if I sign my rights away to somebody who can take care of her and get her the proper medication and everything, and he said, well, you're giving up your child like your mother did you.
Cheyenne reiterates her plans to relinquish custody of Meredith to someone else. Only this time, her father's views on this are revealed. According to Cheyenne, Mark likened her to her own negligent mother, which would be a difficult comment to hear considering Cheyenne was placed in Mark's custody after years of abuse at the hand of her own mother. Just as Cheyenne fears the damage Meredith could inflict on her relationship with Cody, this point of contention between her and her father will inform Newbold's line of questioning.
So the phone rings, something picks up, the phone picks up.
Yeah.
And he wasn't talking to you, it sounded like he was doing something?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you hear in the background?
I don't know what your mother sees that's wrong with you.
Okay.
I think my dad's been back talking to me behind my back. My kid, that's why she's probably also...
Okay.
Cheyenne not only gives the detectives motive on a silver platter by using this interrogation to vent about her father, but unbeknownst to her, police will soon discover that the pair were already dead by this time, and a phone call impossible. On the 20th of July, 2015, Cody received a text message from Mark's phone stating that he would be leaving Florida, never to return, and that he had been diagnosed with cancer, with a short time left to live. The reality is that Mark never sent these messages or had any intention to move state. The texts were sent by Cheyenne.
Wait
in
a
order
minute.
to further be...
Well, did they triangulate it? What cell tower? Did she do it from the actual location to try and make it look like he sent these texts? Or can they triangulate it to a different location? Does she have his phone?
Cloud reality. Her text also elaborates that Mark would be taking Meredith with him to spend his final days with his granddaughter.
So, Wednesday you find out that your dad says he's going to Georgia. He has a year later. Did he say he's taking your baby?
Yeah.
Okay. But,
See family is what he said.
but we know on the 20th and Monday the 20th and Tuesday the 21st, you drove by there and the cars were there. They're just situated different. So it probably haven't left yet at that point. Like, how else would it get there?
As Cheyenne weaves the story of her terminal father running off to Georgia, her mentions of specific dates quickly create an opportunity for Newbold to target an inconsistency. If Mark announced his departure on the 20th, yet Cheyenne saw his car had moved on the 21st, he can't have left when Cheyenne claims he did. Catching this oversight doesn't bode well for Cheyenne's ability to track her own testimony, and equally displays the close attention Newbold is paying. This is our first hint of a confrontation, yet it's tempered by filler words and pauses to maintain a tone of inquiry rather than challenge. The detectives need to cover significant ground before they can justify an arrest, so they must keep their suspect comfortable enough to continue talking for now. Cheyenne, in turn, simply plays up her confusion to cover the error.
Right.
My name is Antonia Krista. I only see in one eye, and I was born this way.
Okay, when you went in the front door, was there anything out of place or anything?
It just stunk in there, but everything looked just like it did whenever you guys came over, and I filled out that report.
Okay, so it stunk and what did it smell like?
It just smelled like dead rats or dead something.
Okay. Did you find out what that smell was?
Well, I did find some rats and stuff, and I threw them away.
You found some rats?
Yeah.
Okay. But was that the smell?
Yeah.
Where were they at?
They were in the kitchen.
You have a rat? You guys have a rat problem in there?
Yeah.
Has he had it for a while?
Yeah.
Does he put out rat traps or anything?
Yeah, and that we've actually found rat feces right by the water here, which is the little door that's right behind the dining room set.
Okay.
And then I found rat feces on the stove.
So you identified the smell as the dead rats?
Yeah, and
You threw them away right then? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
This anecdote about decaying rats is, of course, an attempt to explain away any smell of death. But the time for confrontation has not yet arrived. To bolster this information-gathering phase in the meantime, Newbold introduces punishment and reward tactics with the aim of conditioning Cheyenne to continue staying on track.
So they take care of the dog, and then you take is that when you take the Suburban over to the landlord's?
Yeah.
Where's the landlord in that?
Over, like just right around the woods.
Okay, just like around the block or something?
Yeah.
And did someone come pick you up over there?
No, I just walked back.
Okay, how far of a walk is it?
It's not that far. It just, if you do a lot of walking, it kind of
I
hurts.
know. Can you tell? So, you come back, what happens with the dog?
We take the dog with us up to the house and everything.
What about the truck? His truck?
His dad we take the kennel, we put it in the truck, and we take them up there to the house and everything. We set it up, and Cody goes to Beck to get us to go to work.
Okay. But you took your dad's truck up to your house?
Yeah.
Who drove the truck up there?
George did, because I can't drive a 6-shift.
Okay.
I tried, and I kind of keep killing the thing.
Okay. So,
My dad actually laughed at me.
when's the next time you talk to your dad after that?
As she describes the distance between her father's trailer and his landlord's, Newbold makes a joke at his own expense, remarking he couldn't walk that far given his weight. This short quip erases the tension between suspect and detective, a mental relief that Cheyenne might earn again if she remains in Newbold's good graces. The limits of said graces are also established soon after. Cheyenne tries to make her own little joke about not being able to drive stick, but the detective doesn't even acknowledge this, let alone smile or laugh. The message is clear. Newbold will make Cheyenne more comfortable when she bows to his control over the conversation, and just as easily unsettle her should she stray even a little.
I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, I don't know what to do, and he's calmed me down several times and say, hey, look, calm down because you can't focus on everything if you're like flustered buzzard.
Huh?
Flustered buzzard.
Okay.
You know, flustered.
Okay. What did you go get out of the house?
I got picture frames, like family pictures and stuff. I got some of his tools. That's way, like, that was my grandfather's, he said. Things that he meant to him. And I got his DVDs out of there that are mixed with mine in the case. And then I got his crossbow that he had.
But nothing was missing at all except for his camping stuff and the clothes?
Yeah.
Nothing else. Nothing significant was missing.
He, in his text message, he said he got what he wanted, he got what he needed, sell the rest. I don't care about it, basically.
This section of the interview exhibits a recurring trend in the way Cheyenne speaks. She'll confirm some statement like there being nothing significant missing from her father's house, but as soon as Newbold asks after something specific, she immediately caves and contradicts herself. This happens most notably with $30,000 cash hidden in her father's computer tower.
What about this $30,000? Is that there?
No, the tower was missing too.
Oh, okay.
The tower,
Is that pretty significant?
yeah, like my dad, I asked him about it, he goes, I don't know what you're talking about.
And the fact that a revolver is missing from his gun collection.
So he has 3 guns, that's it?
Yeah, but I know he has a handheld revolver that was missing too.
Oh, that's missing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just figure, okay, well, he takes it with him because he always keeps it in his pocket.
Okay.
On some level, Cheyenne knows that it's suspicious these items are missing, so she won't readily offer this information. At the same time, she seems unsure what she can get away with concealing, and Newbold is learning it doesn't take much pushing for Cheyenne to reveal something she's hidden by omission.
What? A raccoon?
Yeah.
You had one?
Yeah.
Underneath the house?
Yeah.
How'd you find that under the house? Why'd you look under there?
Because I was trying to figure out where that smell was coming from.
Okay.
I looked around right there. I cleaned up dog shit.
But it wasn't dog shit. That's not that bad.
Yeah.
So the rats were dead in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And there was a dead raccoon under the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Newbold makes another underhanded challenge to Cheyenne, expressing doubt that the intense scent of decay can be explained by feces, though he won't yet question the conveniently decomposing raccoon. This is obviously a more plausible source of the smell, so first he must acutely interrogate and find fault in the logistics of Cheyenne's story. But moving this carcass isn't the only cleaning that begs questioning.
Okay. I'm gonna pause here and do this as a part 1 so that I can crop it, because if the video gets too long, I'm unable to crop it. But it does look like there's a timestamp at the bottom of the video, so it looks like this happened in 2015.